Hey everybody, welcome to another video. So yesterday I did a video on a Nintendo Switch OLED and the video in question was a mod chip. So I've got a Nintendo Switch OLED just here and this Switch OLED belongs to me, and essentially the issue with this is it doesn't connect to Wi-Fi, right? So what I thought I could do is I thought that I would install a mod chip on it, and at least then I can use it as a emulation device and stuff like that. And I got quite a few comments, and a lot of the comments were saying that it doesn't matter whether I'm installing the chip or whether I'm doing the software or whatever, you know, it's all still technically coming under piracy and it's illegal. Well, you're wrong. You are very wrong. It is a very grey area, yes, but you are very wrong. Installing a mod chip for the purposes of unlocking a device to use it for other things is basically completely legal. It's my device. I can do what I want with it. And yeah, as long as I'm not pirating any software and I'm not circumventing any security measures designed to prevent the piracy of software, then I'm not doing anything wrong. But that being said, I've got another Switch here. This is another one. It's another Switch OLED and it's another one of mine. And I've had this for quite a while, and the reason I've had it lying around is because it don't turn on. And the reason it don't turn on is because the NAND is knackered. Or at least I believe the NAND is knackered. So if I basically attempt to turn this on, and it is charged, but I'm going to grab a USB ammeter just to show you that. But it is charged, but basically if I try and charge this up, it will charge up, etc, etc. But the issue with it is that it just doesn't turn on. And when I connect it up to the computer and I load up Tegra RCM GUI, which is the software which is used for exploiting the bootloader on the Switch, it comes up that it's in RCM mode. Now RCM mode is recovery mode, and usually what that means is dead NAND. And unfortunately there's no way to fix that. Not on the OLED, unless you can actually get into the firmware, get into the bootloader and rebuild the NAND. So I'm going to show you what's happening before I do anything, but that's pretty much what we're going to be doing. So I'm going to be pretty much doing exactly what I did yesterday, installing a mod chip on it like this, and then I'm going to attempt to get this working. So if you take a look here, if I just zoom out a little bit because it's just off camera, you'll see that it is actually detecting the charger, and I don't know if you can see that. This is the furthest that my charger will reach. It's a very short cable, but essentially it's drawing current. It's attempting to turn on, or rather it's attempting to charge, right? Yes, the battery's fairly dead at the minute, but it has 0.11 amps at 15 volts and we see absolutely nothing on the screen. So you would think, oh, it's going to be an M92 issue, but no, unfortunately it's not. So this is going to be one that I've worked on at some point in the past, and from what I can tell, it's going to be a NAND issue. So if I just connect this up to my computer, so here we go in 3, 2, 1. Did you hear that? Hopefully that come up on the computer, but RCM device detected. Yeah. So basically that means that this is in recovery mode and that it's, well, stuck. Basically, it can't boot the firmware, which normally means dead NAND. So if I try to inject a payload, it'll try, but it will crash because this is obviously unexploitable. You know, the CPU on the Switch OLED isn't exploitable in the same traditional sense that we used to exploit the V1 switches. So yeah, as you can see there, it's not responding and it's just not going to allow me to inject the Hakko firmware into it, or the Hakko bootloader rather, should I say. And yeah, that's a problem because now we can't actually do anything. So if we go back to here, I'll zoom back in, and what I'm going to do, I'm going to unplug that. I'm going to plug it back in, and while I put the power button in, or while I put the charger in rather, I'm going to press and hold the volume up and volume down buttons, and I'm going to see if I can get into recovery mode. No, nothing's happening. Nothing at all. So it did try and boot. So what happened was I heard it come up on the computer, and then immediately it disconnected, right? So obviously that means that nothing's happening with it. It's not actually allowing it to go into recovery mode, or rather whatever recovery mode, whatever Nintendo deems as recovery mode, right? So let's just try that again. So I'm going to press these two buttons here. So I'll press and hold those. Plug in the battery. Plug in the charger. And that should prompt it to boot. I'll press the power button as well, but no, we're not getting nothing. It's still in RCM mode on the PC, and we're not getting nothing on the screen. So we have a problem. So what I'm going to do, like I said, is I'm going to install another mod chip today, and I'm going to get this hopefully up and running to a point where it's going to be usable. The problem with the Nintendo Switch is that if the NAND dies, it won't boot. So it won't even boot to recovery mode. It doesn't allow you to change the NAND. It doesn't allow you to do anything. So, sorry Nintendo, but you're really tying my hands here. So there's not a lot I can do, right? So, let's just get this apart. But if you're new to the channel, my name's Hakko. I'm an electronics technician. I mainly work on games consoles, but I do work on other stuff as well. I've got some MacBooks and stuff in the queue, some laptops, a bit of everything. So if that's the sort of stuff you're into, be sure to get subscribed and turn on the bell notifications, and that way you don't miss any future videos. And if you do want to organise a repair, if you've got this issue or any other repair that you need doing, get in touch, www.thecodat.repair. You can send me an email, you can request a quote, and I'll get back to you and hopefully help you to get your device up and running as well. And also, if you do need to buy parts and supplies, no, I do not sell mod chips, but if you need any other parts and supplies, be sure to check out the online store, consolefix.shop. And there we go. Okay, so the screen's there, and we have the board just here. And I do want to say, I don't condone piracy. I don't endorse it. I'm not giving any how-to guides on how to actually pirate games. What you do with your device is absolutely none of my business. I'm installing this particular mod chip for the purposes of repair, and there is absolutely nothing wrong with that, okay? There is nothing wrong with installing the mod chip for the purposes of repair. Let's have a look and see what we're dealing with. So I want to just see if there's any heat on this NAND first. I'm gonna need. Okay, see, it shouldn't even do that. It shouldn't even pick up that it's in RCM mode without a battery installed. I'm going to need the battery though, just to allow it to at least attempt to boot. But yeah, that should be picking up on the audio. I don't know if it actually is or not, but it is picking up in RCM mode. Yeah, there it goes again. And yeah, okay. No, there's no heat coming from the NAND. So it might not be dead, but there's definitely something wrong, right? So let's pop this under the microscope, and we're going to go through the process of installing a mod chip. I'm not going to go into as much detail as yesterday because that was long. So I'll just install the mod chip, and I'll probably fast forward through a lot of it just because it is a long, winding process to actually do it. Alright, so the first thing I think I'm going to do is just give it a visual inspection. You never want to jump to conclusions. You just want to inspect it first. And what I'm really looking for here is any signs of any blown main power chips, and also any signs of damaged components, burn marks, liquid damage, that sort of stuff. But this board looks absolutely pristine. It doesn't appear to have any issues with it. So yeah, that's a problem, obviously. So let's just get a couple of diode readings from around this NAND chip. So this SEC 113 here, which is slightly out of focus, but that one there is the NAND chip. That's where the storage is. It's a 64 gig chip on these. But if we just go into diode mode on the multimeter, so diode mode is going to measure the voltage drop across the leads, and basically what we want to do is we want to just confirm that there's no shorts. So if we pop our red probe on ground, and the reason that we pop the red probe on ground is because we don't want to reverse the polarity, because if we reverse the polarity, essentially what we're doing is injecting 2 volts into the chip. That's what diode mode does. It injects around about 2 volts and then measures the drop across the leads, and then gives you a value based on that. So let's just have a look. So we've got 0.41 volt drop to ground there. We've got 0.52 there. This is a very small component here. That's ground. 0.27 volt drop to ground there. I believe that's the 1.8 volt line, so that's absolutely fine. 0.27, 0.47, and 0.48. So I don't believe we've got any shorts on the NAND. Let's just check my 3.3 volt. .42, okay. So I appear to be getting decent readings, so I think I am just going to go ahead and install a mod chip to this. So I'll start off by just removing the shields, or at least the ones I need to remove. There we are, so that's that one. I'm going to clean off the thermal paste to this. So I'll just get rid of that thermal paste, and I'm just going to scrape off the bottom here as well, because these are the ones we need access to. Mainly these 2 caps here, so these 2 sideways ones. I'll say mainly, it's those ones. They're the ones we need the access to. So while I'm doing this as well, like I said, I don't condone piracy, and the only reason I have a modded Switch is for emulation and for homebrew games. I don't play new games. I don't like them. I think they're crap. So I use it for homebrew, which is completely legal. There is nothing wrong with using a device that you own for homebrew. And yeah, everyone can suck it who thinks that's illegal, because it's not. Sorry. But anyway, I've got access to the capacitors then. So what I'm going to do, like I said, I'm not going to go through this process, you know, explaining it all today, because, well, it's tedious. It is a fairly tedious job. It's not the most fun job in the world to do, I'm going to be honest. And yeah, just to say that we've got to do this just to repair this device is absolute insanity. So I've got my Switch CPU flex cable. So I'm just going to bend that up slightly so as I can get hooks under here. There we are. And then lift this part of the shield up. And then, if we just line this up, that's where we need to be. So we need to be able to solder to this capacitor here and this capacitor here where the gold contacts are. The other 2 gold contacts are just anchor points. But that's what I'm going to do. Alright, so that's that anchored. And then I'm just going to solder to these contacts. There we go. That's that done. Next I'm going to access this. So I need to access the clock line. Okay. Let's just give myself access to this line. And now I can solder to it. There we are. Next I'm going to put this flex ribbon on. So that flex ribbon is done, or at least I believe it is. I think I've got all the points. And now we can move on to the NAND. So we need to chop this up as well. Okay, so that tore the pads on the ground point, but that's fine. Let's grab the flex ribbon for the NAND. Anchor this down. I am limited to just a single anchor point here because of that ground point breaking. Alright, let me just get a diode reading here, make sure that we've got one. No. Oh. It's a little bit intermittent. Yes, I know I can do the kamikaze method, however, I haven't done it before and I'm not about to start in this video. I will practice it, but I'm not going to be doing it today. Let's try again. Yeah, that's a lot more consistent. Good, okay, cool. So now we need a wire. So this wire needs to come from the D0 line. I haven't got a needle on my flux tube because I'm running to the bottom of the syringe. I like to maximise my use on him. I'm a cheapskate, what can I say? Alright, so I'm going to just route this. So this needs to be routed around here. Okay, so now I've got the point where I know I can cut it. Let's go ahead and break that. There we are. And now I'm going to clean up everything because I need to put the shield back on. Okay. I'll drop this shield back on here, like so. Let's just drop some thermal paste on here and clean the old stuff off here. And what I need to do is just make a slight modification to this and just bend this edge up. And that'll stop this shield from cutting into the flex ribbon on the CPU. So, just bend that like that. Got some thermal paste there. Okay, that moves freely, that's good. So now I just need to access this point here with the wire. There we are. And then I'll route this here where the speaker sits. And then we're going to take the mod chip. I'm going to clip that in there. And grab this flex as well. Drop that there, and then I need to just solder this wire that I've just done to the B point on the board. So just here. Okay, there we are. So there is the switch with the HWFly mod installed in all of its glory, and I think I'm ready to proceed. Okay, so no, let's not do that. I forgot to plug the LCD in. Yeah, this didn't take me anywhere near as long this time to do. Obviously I know the points now, even though I've only done it once before today, but I know the points now, and basically it didn't take me as long because I wasn't, you know, walking through it step by step and stuff like that, so makes it a little bit easier. But there we go, we have everything reassembled to the point that we need it. So now I just need to power this on for the first time and allow it to train. So I'm going to plug this in to the charger, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab my SD card and I'm just going to pop that in as well. Well, actually I'm not going to pop it in yet. I want to see that no SD screen first, but I've got my SD card there. Okay. That's got an error. I don't know what that error means. I think it's NAND communication. Right, I'm going to leave this 10 minutes. I want to get some charge into it because it is charging at 0.49 amps. So I am going to leave it 10 minutes or so because it needs some charge in it anyway before I go much further. Right, we've got 3.6 volts in the battery, so that should, in theory, work. At least to train it. Okay, so I believe that means D0 not connected. So long pulse, short pulse is, yeah, D0 not connected according to the error code. So looks like we do have an issue with that D0. Before people say anything, yes, I am aware of the kamikaze method, but I've never done it, and I don't want to do it on a board that I'm actively trying to repair, because for a start I would never know if it was actually working, right? So that's one thing. And number two is, well, do I really want to risk destroying a board? I need some dead boards to practice on, I think. I might do some practice on some dead boards and get used to the kamikaze method. I know it's within my capabilities. I know I'm able to do it. You know, I know I've got the skills to do it. You know, the precision, fine motor things with my fingers and stuff. I don't freaking know what you call it. But yeah, I know that I could do it, but I've never done it. And the problem with never doing something is you don't want to do it on an active case. You don't want to do it on a live case, right? Okay, so let's just go back to here. I'm going to warm this up because there might be a little bit of flux underneath it. Or it could simply be that the NAND is just dead. And that might be why it's not working. In which case, I don't know what options I would have. If it needs a new NAND... Oh, hang on. I think it's chopped the wire. Did I damage that wire then? Must have had a break in the wire or something, because I haven't hit that wire. So let's try it again. Let's run another jumper wire. It could just be that the NAND is completely dead and needs to be repaired in other methods. That's always a possibility. There's a new jumper wire. Oh, damn it, you couldn't even see. God damn it. Alright, never mind. Let's try it again anyway. I always do that. So let's just pop the battery in. And I'll prompt it to boot with the charger. See if we still got that same error code. Oh. Yep, I think it just broke the wire. There we go, that's training. It's giving me the error code, the correct boot sequence now, or the correct LED sequence. Awesome. Oh, I see what's happened. This has fell off. This shield has fell off and it's caused it to chop the wire. Okay, yeah, that makes more sense now. Okay, so finally we are ready for testing. So let's just attempt to boot it. Should show up in a second. Maybe not, because it might be dead. Might be too dead to actually do anything. Okay, we've got a white light. Yeah, it might be too dead to do anything. It was trying to train it just. I'm going to leave it 10 minutes. I'm going to pause the video. I'll leave it 10 minutes just to charge up. And yeah, I'll take it from there. Right, so for some reason it's not booting. I don't know if it's trained incorrectly. If it has, I'd probably have to do a firmware reset on it, on this particular board. So what I'm going to do is just desolder this wire. I'm going to swap this board for another one, and I'm going to just give the console a good amount of time to charge up before I actually do anything. So while that mod board's out, let's just do that. So that's charging, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab another mod board and just solder this wire to it and get it ready for training. And I say that and then realise that I'm way out of shot. Never mind. It's ready to have that mod board plugged back in, but I am going to wait a bit. I'm going to leave it unplugged for now because I want to make 100% sure we've got enough charge in this to actually complete the training. We've got 3.82 volts at the minute, so I am going to give it a while. We're charging at 0.5 amp, so it shouldn't take that long. I should realistically have enough charge in it in the next 10 minutes. Alright, with the power of editing, it's been around about 15 minutes. So I just sat and had a coffee and stuff. So we should have enough charge in this now, so I'm going to connect all this back up. And hopefully we see some sign of life. CPU's warm, so something's happening. Okay. Here we go. Okay, so we've got the training lights. Right, is it going to work? No, it's not allowing it to connect. Let me just see if it's still in RCM mode. No, apparently not. What is going on with this? So it's not picking up in RCM mode, but it's also just not pairing on now at all. Let's just take it out of here and I'll put it into a different housing. So I'm going to try a confirmed working housing, which is going to be the one that I did yesterday. Okay, so this housing definitely works, as we saw yesterday. So let's have a look. We've got the glitch. Well, I'll be damned. We've got a bad screen. You mother flipper. Well, that's annoying. But on the plus side, that is working. I can't believe we've got a bad SD card. Sorry, not a bad SD. A bad screen. So that screen is confirmed bad then. I might take that screen off at some point and have a look, see if it's liquid damage or something like that. But yeah, there we go. That was really annoying. So I guess assemble it in this housing and see what the score is. If I can use this housing, it doesn't matter to me. But I don't mind using this housing and then just, you know, trying to figure out this Wi-Fi issue on this board at some point. And at least then I've got a working OLED, right? You know, a fully working OLED with Wi-Fi. I don't know if that glitch chip works or not. I have no idea, but we've got a fully reassembled, well, I say fully reassembled, it's a reassembled switch, and we're ready to boot into Hakko and see if we can get something done with this. And I've just realised that this is going to attempt to boot up into my emuland off this SD card, so I'm going to have to hold the volume down button as I boot it. Let's just load into Hakko. There we are, beautiful. And cancel out of that. Console info. And it does read the prod infos. So, that's a little bit strange then, how it's stuck in RCM. Let's try launch semi-stock. Let's see if it's able to do that. Okay. 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 It's booting. No, I will not be using that. I will not be deleting that. So that's booting into the standard firmware. What I'm going to have to do is find another SD card out, because I can't delete the stuff off this, because it's all the stuff off my own Switch Lite. It's got all of my game saves on it, so I cannot format that SD card. Yeah, but that's booting into the firmware there, so okay. Right, well, next up, let's unplug that glitch chip, and let's try powering it on normally now. No, so it won't power on without the mod chip installed. Right, okay, so I think what I'm going to do then, I'm going to boot back in, and I'm going to delete the software that's on here. So, well, I'm going to delete the, I'm going to factory reset it, basically. I'm going to delete the user partition and factory reset the thing. Or I could just boot up emuland, and that should do it. But, so basically what that'll do is it'll just copy the software that's already on the system over to a virtual NAND, and in theory that should work. I don't know why it's not booting. I have no idea why it's not booting, but if I do that and then delete the user partition, that'll basically give me a working copy of it as well, and then I can delete the user partition and go from there. So I think I'm going to do that. I'm going to find another SD card out, and boom, I have a brand new 128GB Kingston card. So I'm going to get this set up with the Switch firmware, if I can get the thing open. I've had this for a considerable amount of time and not done anything with it, so there's a perfect opportunity to make use of the money I've spent or wasted by buying SD cards I didn't need. But you always need them. You know, it's good to have a few SD cards on hand, right? I'm going to hook this up to the PC, and no, I'm not going to walk you through this, because, well, I don't do that. I'm not putting myself at risk. So I'm going to set this SD card up with some firmware and get it all ready to go. And boom, just like that, I've got an SD card prepped with software. So, get rid of that one. This one's my Switch Lite SD card. I'll get that back in there, and then with this SD card I shouldn't need to hold the volume button because nothing's set on it. There we go. So that's booting into Hakko. So console info, battery. Yep, it is reading, but don't know what that init means. Oh well. So eMMC is reading. Okay. Not going to bother with the micro SD because I don't want to faff around with that. So let's go for MU-MMC, and we're going to go for create MU-MMC. We're going to go for SD file. And I'm going to let that run. So what this is doing is it's just creating a virtual eMMC on the SD card. So what that means is it's going to take the data that's on the SD card right now, and it's basically going to copy it over to virtual files, you know, virtual hard drives on the SD card. So what that does then is it eliminates the need for the NAND altogether, right? Basically what we can do is we can boot into the MMC and just run it that way instead of having to worry about the 64 gig file that's on the or the 64 gig chip that's on the board as it is. So that's what I'm going to do, and then I'm going to set it to auto boot into the MMC, and we'll see if everything works once I finish doing that. This is going to take a while, so I'm going to pause it, and then once it's done, I'll resume the video. Okay, finally, that's done. So that took a lot longer than I expected it to. It took 56 minutes and 5 seconds. That's a long ass time. So yeah, there we go. That is copied. So we've got the MMC installed on here now. So change MMC. We're going to select that. And then we're going to go back. We're going to go to Tools. No, we're not going to go to Tools. We're going to go to Options. We're going to say Auto Boot into Custom Firmware. No boot logo. I believe that's it. Save that config. So we've got auto boot on. It's automatically going to boot into the custom software. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to Payloads, Tegra Explorer, key dump failed. Right, let's go to systemwipe.te. Warning, keys required. Are you make sure you're on the latest version of Tegra. Yeah. Okay, well, let's reboot it normally then. And that should now boot into custom firmware, I believe. It's not able to dump the keys for some reason. Might take a while to do this. Has that just gone back into RCM mode? Yes, it has. Yeah, RCM device detected. Oh, damn it. So it looks like it's not able to boot still. So I'll tell you what then. Let's boot it back into the Tegra RCM. Hakko. So cancel, launch. Ah, right, okay, so it's doing that, right, when it's on the SysMMC. Right, so we're going to go to Options, Auto Boot, MMC. Save Options, Home, and then we're going to power off. Yes. So I'm shutting that down now. And then I'm going to boot it back up. So I've just unplugged it, obviously, so you know it's shut down properly. Power that on. See if it wants to boot. Failed to launch. Oh, damn it. It's on FAT32. You mofo. Sorry, it needs FAT32. And it's on exFAT. I completely forgot to do that. Damn it. I'm going to have to run through all of this again, but let's go launch semi-stock. Right, so I'm going to connect to the internet. Let's update the system. So the problem here is this is going to try and boot back into the custom firmware in a minute. So I'm going to have to press volume down and relaunch it in the normal software. So I've got to run through this update before I can factory reset it. That's the only problem. So I'm going to get ready to press volume down. Okay, so that's run through the download. Update complete. Console will restart shortly. So now I'm going to press and hold the volume down button. And it should boot back into Hakko. There we are. Cancel. And then we will go launch semi-stock. So now I'm going to go system. So current version 19.0.1. And then I'm going to format it. Reset factory settings. And now it's going to wipe everything. There we go. That's what I wanted to do. So I wanted to do that through Hakko and just delete the user directory, but for some reason it just can't obtain the keys. I'm not sure. I'm going to have to look into that. But the worst case scenario here now is that I can just put this SD card into FAT32 and launch it with custom firmware. So worst case scenario, I know I can get a working console from this. And obviously, that's what I think I'll do if I need to. I'd rather have the option to run it as stock so as I can use the physical games that I've already got for the Switch. And then obviously just use the custom firmware for my homebrew and emulators and stuff like that. I don't very often use it, but yeah, it's one of those things. I still like to have the option if possible, but worst case scenario, I'll just use it as a fully modified Switch and just use it for the emulators, like I was going to do with this other board that I modded yesterday for that purpose. And I'm also going to charge my Switch Lite because it's dead. I forgot to charge it. So this one here, this Switch Lite is mine, and obviously I've got my emulators and stuff on it. So if it charges in time, I'll show you. Alright, so this is my Switch, and obviously as you can see, I'm literally using mine for things like Pokemon. You know, the old Game Boy games, which I've got physical copies of. So this is why I say this isn't illegal. I'm using it for emulation, basically. And obviously, these are all Game Boy and Game Boy Advance games. There's stuff from when I was a kid, and there's stuff that I've actually got physical games too. So technically, I'm not breaking any laws. But yeah, that's what I use it for. I use it for playing like Pokemon Yellow and stuff. So load this up, and the Animal Crossing game and stuff like that, we've actually got physical copies on the store of those. So yeah, but I basically play stuff like Pokemon Yellow and things like that, as you'll see right here. I'll just load my state. There you go. So there you go, on the way to Indigo Plateau. So yeah, that's mine. But if I reboot this and put it into the official software, which is what I actually do with it, so hold down volume button. So that's that. Let me just get this volume button here. I need to boot back into stock. Come on, give me Hakko. Please give me Hakko. I missed it. Damn it. I missed it. Alright, never mind. Oh no, sorry, it doesn't power down. It doesn't reboot when you factory reset it, it powers off. Never mind. I forgot. Press down volume and hold that. And we should go back into Hakko. There we go. And now we're going to launch the semi-stock, and that'll boot back into the firmware, and it should be factory reset and stuff. Right, anyway. So, if I launch the semi-stock on here, and then I'll load into the store. There you go, that's done. So these are the games that I had on there, apart from the emulator stuff. I've actually got copies too on the store. So Nintendo Switch Online. So I don't use them for piracy, and this is what I was saying to people. I don't use them for piracy. I use them for playing actual games. So membership options, I actually have, let me have a look. How do I get to my on individual membership? There you go. 5 months and 26 days remaining on that. So I've got a Nintendo Switch Online membership, and then if we go to the eShop, just while I run through this setup. Ding. Thank you. Oh, it wants me to enter my password. Hang on. Right, that's loading. So I can finish this setup, do that later. Okay, so that's running. But yeah, re-download Animal Crossing, etc, etc. So I've got all of those games on there. Yeah, and then obviously my partner's got an account as well, which she uses. So yeah, we already own the games. So I'll link it later. Skip that. Skip all of that, and then we are done. Okay, so he wants to delete the software. That's annoying. Oh shoot, yeah, because I've just factory reset it. Okay, right. So yeah, I think what I need to do now. Let me just test and see if it boots into custom firmware. Oh, it won't. Damn it. It won't boot into custom firmware because it needs to be formatted in FAT32. Let's try and launch it in custom firmware sysMMC now. So on the system MMC. There we go. I think that's fixed. I think it's fixed. Oh, that's awesome if it is. Okay, so forget that. I don't care about the SD card. Right, so now let's unplug the chip like so. So I'll get rid of that chip and then I'm going to boot it normally. Just hold that there so it don't tear my wire, and there we go. Yeah, no mod chip and it's now working. So all I needed to do was get into the eMMC by booting it normally. Now I can delete the damn thing. Forget that. And now it should just reboot and it should just work every time. The OLED's fixed. So just by booting it into the Hakko software and basically launching the eMMC manually and then factory resetting it, it's got rid of all of the data, and now it's not stuck in RCM mode because the NAND wasn't actually dead, it was just corrupted by the look of it. And now that's working as a normal switch again. Obviously I'm going to keep the mod chip on there because, well, why wouldn't I? It's going to allow me to play emulator games and stuff like that. So yeah, at least the switch is fixed. It's a long winding process, but it is possible. And if this didn't work, there is another way you can do it. So if you download a backup of your NAND and manage to obtain the keys, you can replace the NAND, and I do plan on doing that for a video at some point. So I need to find out. I've got a 128 gig chip and I need to find it out. It's in my old workshop somewhere, so I've got to find that out, and then I'm going to upgrade this, I think, to 128 gig. But that being said, though, this is now working, and obviously, I can do what I want with it now. I can run it on normal system, on normal stock firmware, or I can run it on custom firmware. But yeah, happy days. Nintendo, you suck because you don't give away to do this when the software is corrupt. I tried to get it into recovery mode. I tried the process that you would suggest on the website. It didn't freaking work. So the only way I could do it was to install a damn mod chip, and that is ridiculous. It's absolutely ridiculous. Pure insanity. If Nintendo made these easier to repair, I wouldn't be having to go through that process. So, yeah. That being said, thank you very much for watching. I really appreciate it. If you do have any comments or questions, leave them down in the comment section down below. I'll always do my best to answer. If you do want to organise a repair, whether it's this repair, whether it's anything else, get in touch, www.thecoder.repair, and I'll do my best to get your console working as well. And if you need parts and supplies, not the mod chips, I don't sell them, but if you need parts and supplies, you can buy them from my online store, consolefix.shop. But thank you very much for watching. I really do appreciate it. Until next time, take care, and I'll see you all in the next video. Bye for now.